Former BYU quarterback and BYUtv football analyst Blaine Fowler in studio with us as we look back and we look ahead. It was a nice start for the Cougars.
I was really impressed, especially with the defense in this ball game. And we knew that they had talent and they had speed on the defensive side of the ball. Bronco had told us that, but I thought they were above and beyond. You know, Mike Leach typically brings a high-power offense wherever he coaches, and they had a lot of good skill players. And I thought BYU matched up extremely well in terms of speed. You know, their physical play. It was a very impressive outing.
There were some guys that made plays that we really didn't think were going to make the plays that they did. And let's start with our game changer, Cougars out of the tight end spot. We didn't even talk about him as a tight end during fall camp. He wins the starting job, and he has a great start, and he earns a helmet sticker.
Yeah, we'll start right out with that. Each week we're going to give our game-changing player or performance a helmet sticker. We're going to give it to Cougars. Outstanding performance. He had 6 receptions, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. And you're right, we were wondering who the tight end was going to be halfway through fall camp. And he emerged as camp progressed, and he had a big presence in this ball game. Ran good routes. He blocked well. He showed us that he had good hands. And I loved how he ran with the football after he caught the ball. He was a tank and just ran over people. And you know, this looks like the guy that's going to be able to be that every down tight end that BYU's needed.
When the tight end position is producing, what does it mean for the offense?
Well, it opens up a lot of things. That tight end is an easy throw. It's a big target for the quarterback. And so if you have a guy that you can rely on, he becomes a chain mover. On 3rd down and 6 or 7, you can go to that tight end. When you get in goal line, that's another receiver you can go to. It's a huge part of this BYU offense.
The Y factor, which is kind of like the X factor, but we're going with the Y because we're at BYU. Skylar Ridley really made a name for himself with what he did after Cody Hoffman went down with his thigh bruise.
None of us talked about Skylar Ridley before the game. We all picked our Y factor. Nobody picked Skylar, but Bronco Mendenhall throughout fall camp kept telling us, you know, hey, this guy's looking real good in fall. He's played well. He reminds me of his coach, Ben Cahoon. He runs precise routes. He's not afraid to go inside. He gets smacked and knocked down and jump right back up. I think he's that kind of receiver. Great route runner, not afraid to mix it up. He blocked well in this game. I mean, it was a great performance and unexpected out of Skylar Ridley, but now we're going to expect him to play that well every week.
All right, a couple other things we saw with the kicking game. We did not see Justin Sorensen as we thought we would, although he did kick the last kickoff. But Riley Stevenson came in and did some things he hadn't done since high school at Pineview and St. George.
Yeah, he was solid, and that's what we were hoping for, that he would be solid in the kicking game. And my big worry was if he had to kick the football in terms of the field goals and extra points, it might affect his ability to punt it. Now, we didn't see him punt it that much in this game. He only had to punt the football 2 times, but a 49-yard average. He had a very solid performance in both, you know, his kicking game and punting the football.
Let's take a moment now and get to know the foe. Speaking of the Weber State Wildcats, they're in the Bowl Championship subdivision out of Ogden, Utah, play in the Big Sky Conference. They'll travel about 70 miles from Ogden to Provo to play the Cougars. They'll really enjoy what they've done with the I-15 project. Might get here a little faster. Alumnus John L. Smith was the coach up there until April when he did an about-face and went back to Arkansas to take over there. Jody Sears now the interim coach. The Wildcats returned 14 starters. Famous alumni include past LDS Church President David O. McKay, former BYU President Ernest L. Wilkinson, and the nation's leading scorer in college hoops last year, Damian Lillard. BYU and Weber State have met twice. You go back to 1973 and 1979. Cougars won both by a combined score of 93-17. They are 0-1, lost the opener at Fresno State Saturday night, 37-10, 274 yards of offense. They turned the ball over just once. Fresno State a little too much for Weber State. So what do you make of this matchup?
Well, I mean, this is a team that will be outmanned in terms of physical size and speed compared to BYU, just like they were against Fresno State. And so, you know, for BYU, this is an opportunity to work on some things. They need to do a better job running the football than they did this last week against Washington State. You know, Weber State, it's going to be a tough matchup, a very tough matchup. They have a couple of guys that we can focus on to watch in this ball game.
Okay.
Mike Hoke, their quarterback, is a player that was very solid last season, threw for over 2,000 yards, very efficient with the football, had 19 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He had over 200 yards against Fresno State with just 1 interception. So he tried to carry him, but he couldn't do it on his own. And the other guy they have is a running back, number 22. Keep your eyes on him, C.J. Tuckett. And he came on in a big way at the end of the season last season. In his last 2 games, he had 407 all-purpose yards in their game against Northern Arizona in the second to the last game, 254 yards rushing. And everybody thought, well, was that a fluke? In his final game, he comes out and goes for 211 yards and 5 touchdowns in that ball game. And so he finished strong. Didn't have a big game last week against Fresno. They had a hard time opening holes, just averaged 2.1 yards a carry. He has to have a big game, C.J. Tuckett, number 22, if they have any chance at all.
Figure BYU's going to run the ball and should be able to run the ball. So who do we watch for the Cougars?
Well, Mike Alisa is a guy that really needs to pick it up in this ball game. I thought he was crisp. I thought he showed good acceleration and good speed. But he, along with that offensive line, they have to do a better job in this ball game because they're going to need to be able to run the football when they get into some of these tougher games as the season progresses. So I look for Mike Alisa to have a big ball game in this one.
And then Jordan Johnson on the defensive side?
Yeah, Jordan Johnson showed us that he can shut down a big-time receiver. We need to continue to see his progression because as that field corner, he's going to have the assignment of shutting down everybody's best receiver game after game.
Weber State wins if what happens?
Well, they're going to have to force a bunch of turnovers. They have to have 4+ turnovers in this ball game because they're simply outmatched. And I don't see any way that they can do that if they don't not only force turnovers, but get some big plays on offense. They need to have 3 or more big plays. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50-yard plays either in the run game or passes over the top.
BYU wins if?
Well, we were talking earlier, and they need to show up. That's, but they need to take
no disrespect intended on that.
They need to take care of the football.
Yeah.
If they turn it over a bunch, that's going to be a problem. But they need to take care of the football, and I would really like to see them establish that run game and really dominate in the run game in this ball game.
How much of Saturday does BYU use to prepare for a week from Saturday at Utah?
Well, absolutely, they use it. They use it to develop some depth, and that is if they can get out and play the way they should. If they can take care of that football, develop the run game more, and expand on that passing game, it will be a good game to prepare them for Utah next week.
Okay, all right, Blaine Fowler, good job.